Welcome to our Watch App course from Edgeonics. My name is Brett, and now we're going to see how to capture user input and transition with the data we're capturing into other scenes. And for this, we're going to build out our detail view. So there's a few things we want to add to this view. We're going to have this label, and that is going to be the play date. We'll add one more label. This one is going to be the opposing team. All right, and we can change this text here to stadiums. And what we're going to do also, where we have baseball, we're going to actually change it to the selected team, or the selected stadium. So I'll just do this. Okay, so in our interface, controller, we're going to capture the first stadium and set it to the label for where we have our baseball text right now. So that is this label. So we're going to need our assistant editor, and I can remove the utilities plane and control drag, create an outlet for this label so we can interact with it. So this is going to be stadium name. And then down here, we're going to get the particular stadium that's being selected. So we have load stadiums, and on our picker, we want to capture the change. So for that, we can do a control drag from our picker, and we're going to create an action. And we can just call this picker changed. And then in this is where we're going to set the text for our label. So we have stadium name, set text, and we need to get an stadium out of our manager. So I am going to go ahead and do that. This is actually going to be a class, so we'll do a let on s equals that value. And then in here we can do s.name. Let's see, I think we need to do it on wrap. Okay, so that should set our label. Let's go ahead and run this and see what we have right now. And if we change, we should see stadium change to the particular stadium that we're selecting, and it is. So it would be nice if we can start off with the default as well so that it doesn't say stadium. So the default would actually be the first one, and that will use this same code. And then from here, let's see, what would we want? Just probably the first item, which we can send in a 0 for. If we run that, we should see Angel Stadium at this point. And we do. We have some code here that's basically the same thing, and we can create a function out of this and just call that function. So down here we can add our function. How about instead of name, we can do the play date. So if we do play date, that would be a little more useful. And then I can do, let's see, set play date. And in here we can take in an index, and then we'll get our 2 lines of code and put it inside of our function. And we're going to take index here, and then we'll call set play date. And this is going to be 0. Then this one is going to be set play date, which will be value. So let's try that. If we change this, so our default for Angel Stadium is 325, and you'll notice it's changing each time. So that is working well. And now what we want is when we click on one of these, we go into our detail view and it's initialized. Right now it's not. You can see we're getting some errors. So we're going to work on that part now. And so in the detail view, go back here, we need some outlets for these labels. So I'm just going to drag, we'll have play date. Next, we'll have opposing team. Okay, and now we can work with our context again. So that transition is coming out of the table controllers. Go down here, we have our segue, and that is sending in actually a class of type stadium. So when we get back over here in our detail view, give us a little more room, we're trying to cast it as a string, and that's not going to work. So instead, we can take this and do a let s and cast it as a stadium. Then we can set s name. We can set play date s play date. Then we can set the opposing team s opposing team. So now if we run this, we should get our detail view filled in completely. So let's see what happens. And I'll click on stadiums, go into Angels Stadium, and let's see, we're running into an issue here. S looks like it might be correct, but let's see, we're running into a nil while unwrapping optional. And if I look at S, okay, so then if we POS dot name Angel Stadium, I think it's main label that is probably having the issue. You can see here this dot is not filled in, so let's go back and look at that. All right, so if we go into our storyboard, that may have come unlinked. In this case, we can open up the utilities pane, go into the connections, and let's see, we have two. There's our opposing team. There's main label, but where is main label? All right, so if I open up the document outline, do we even still have a main label? Looks like we don't. So in this case, we can remove this main label IB or interface label. I think that will handle that situation. Because we should still see the name of our stadium at the top of our scene, so as part of the navigation. All right, so stadiums, Angel Stadium. So we may want to put that back, but you can see our details are coming in. And so let's go ahead and add that back. We'll put this label at the top. This is going to be stadium name. And we need an IB outlet. So I'll open up the assistant editor. All right, so this is manual. We actually want automatic. And put our label here. Control drag. And this is going to be main label again. Now we can set main label. That's just going to be name. And I think that is it. So let's run this and see what happens at this point. All right, so stadiums, Angels Stadium, and we have Angel Stadium. AT&T Park, that looks good. And Yankees, that looks good. So everything now is functioning. We're transitioning our data over, but let's kind of go over what we did with that. We use the context view again out of our table view. So we have our context segue with identifier. basically what we're doing is returning this any object. And that is going to move us into our next connected up scene that we connected through the storyboard, which is the detail interface controller. Then in here, we awake with context. This is the context. Again, it's any object. So we have to cast the context from any object to Stadium. Then that allows us to get out the item that we passed in from our array, which we grabbed using row index. So that is how we're making use of our Stadium Manager and passing this data from one scene to the next, and also making use of this context that we're given to do that.